front of Congressman Jimmy Gomez's office, where we are asking him to support a real people's bailout. This is the first, as far as we know, socially distanced protest of a congressperson in the state of California. There are other protests going on around the country, but we have picked Jimmy Gomez because he is a self-proclaimed progressive. He's a member of the Progressive Caucus.
Make some noise for me if you guys are here representing folks who don't know how they're going to pay their rent.
Woo!
If you're here representing someone you love who can't make their mortgage next month.
Woo!
If you have family members with a small business that's going under right before your eyes.
Yes.
If you don't know what in the world you would do to pay the bill if you got sick right now.
We are here today to ask him to stand with the chairs of the Progressive Caucus in telling Nancy Pelosi that she is not going to railroad through another corporate bailout. This bailout needs to have three things. It needs to have payroll protection, COVID coverage for everyone, and it needs to have $2,000 a month. Everybody here was asked to get on a call to talk about the guidelines for how this was going to be a safe, socially distant protest during a pandemic. We have hashtags on the ground to show where people have to stand.
I say people, you say bailout. People!
Bailout!
People!
Bailout!
People!
Bailout!
People!
Bailout!
We are in the middle of a once-in-a-century event, a global pandemic not seen since the Spanish flu of 1918, an unemployment of 14.7%, a level not seen since the Great Depression, and that rate could go up to 30% by fall. 35.6 million people have lost their jobs, 100,000 small businesses have closed, 43% said they may be forced to close permanently. 1/4 of restaurants are projected not to reopen. 27 million people have lost their health insurance, adding to the 27.5 million who were uninsured before. And what has government done? There have been 4 bailouts where trillions of dollars have gone to banks and corporations through cash assistance and zero-interest loans. So banks get access to free money, but people have to still pay interest on their mortgages, car loans, student loans, etc. But never fear, in this latest bailout, the one we are protesting, debt collectors get bailed out too, so they can keep coming after you as you worry about having no job and maybe even no home. Don't see the hero in this story. Large businesses used loopholes to get money from the PPA program, depleting the fund after a few days. The people got a lousy one-time check of $1,200, not even enough to cover 1 month's rent in LA. The people did get extra money for unemployment, but state systems were so overwhelmed that many are still waiting for those checks. Now they have this new bill, the Heroes Bill, that has some good things in it, but it does not have key elements that would benefit the people. It does not have payroll protection, money to pay to employers to keep their employees on the payroll during this pandemic, which is better than unemployment. It includes another one-time payment of $1,200, but it should have $2,000 a month for the duration of the pandemic, like some other countries have given their citizens. It does not have coverage for COVID treatment, but it does give money to COBRA, which only benefits big insurance companies who are making out like bandits during this pandemic. And it also allows 501c6s, like lobbyists and chambers of commerce, who own this building we are standing in front of. They should get money from the businesses already bailed out, not the taxpayers. Nancy Pelosi has been enjoying this situation, acting like a dictator, being the only one to craft these corporate bailouts and giving members the opportunity to vote yes or no. She has not figured out a way to bring the House back into session, either in person safely or virtually, like every other governmental body in this country. Even the Senate has resumed meetings. She has steamrolled good progressives like Pramila Jayapal and Mark Pocan, co-chairs of the 95-member Progressive Caucus. So they have said that if Pelosi does not allow more time for discussion and amendments, which would include these programs for the people, she is going to hold up the vote. We are demanding that Jimmy Gomez, self-proclaimed progressive and member of this Progressive Caucus, Stand with Jayapal and Pocan. Republicans know how to play hardball. It is about time that progressives play hardball and fight to make this party one that represents working people and not the corporations and the wealthy. We already have a Republican Party to do that.
Hello everyone, I'm Stephen Wong. I'm a software engineer working at a startup company from California District 34. And like many of you noticed, things will not be the same after the pandemic. The pandemic has only shown us that what we knew all along was that our government does not represent the people. The government puts GDP first. The government dumped $1.5 trillion into the stock market. The government put the banks first. The government injected trillions into the banks. They put big corporations first by offering them billions, hundreds of billions during the CARES Act. And now they are putting the medical insurance companies first. Right? When are they ever gonna put the people first?
No!
Right. Never, right? That's why we're here. We have friends and family getting laid off left and right since January, and people didn't get their one-time $1,200 paychecks until April. So $1,200 spread over several months is meaningless to us. I watch as half of our startup companies basically cannot pay their lease anymore, and they're all shutting down. Employees all lost their jobs due to lockdown, and mom and pop shops all shut their doors. Many businesses will probably never come back ever again after this pandemic is over. The one-time payment of $1,200 was insufficient to help any of us. So we need to bail the people out instead this time.
That's right. Yeah, bail out the people.
We need to stop the government from issuing blank checks to corporations, to banks, to health insurance companies. We need $2,000 a month of stimulus for everyone, and that's a requirement to mitigate the oncoming recession. Anything less is a failure from the government.
Yes. That's right.
This pandemic changed everything forever. Those jobs that disappeared, they're never coming back. Homelessness, racism, poverty, everything has been accelerated. Unemployment in California will soon reach 25%. Big companies now see the weakness of having a human workforce. So we're gonna see them try to mitigate losing trillions of dollars in the future by getting rid of that human workforce through automation and technology. So we need to bail out the people first. We need a universal basic income. We need Medicare for all. We need rent and mortgage freezes.
That's right.
We need to tell our Congress that they need to start putting the people first, and they need to put humanity first.
And what do you want to tell Jimmy Gomez?
I need to tell Jimmy Gomez to put the people first, and that way we can get behind you. Otherwise, we'll get behind someone else.
That's right.
Yeah! Okay.
So my name is Elena Pop, and I am the director of the Eviction Defense Network. And I spend my day talking to stressed out people who are facing housing insecurity. The threat to the loss of your home is the second most stressful experience you will ever have. Number one is the loss of a close loved one. Number three is the loss of a job. And number four is a life-threatening illness. Housing insecurity is something that low-income people face all the time. It's what they live in. What the COVID crisis has done is brought housing insecurity to 1/3 of the population, if not more. And that has given a rise to a tenants' rights movement that was already growing, and the numbers of people that are joining tenants unions and organizations that organize tenants is getting greater and greater. Now, not everybody is an activist. I think I am amongst activists. Sadly, we are less than 10% of the population. But when people are backed up against the wall, when they can't pay their rent, when they're facing likely homelessness, it turns them into activists.
Right.
And those activists then take action. And when activists take action, then things happen.
Right. That's right. Woo!
We need a people's bailout.
Yes. That's right.
We need to cancel rents.
That's right.
Yes. We need to cancel mortgages.
That's right.
And the bailout must reach the people
That's right.
and not just bail out major corporations.
That's right.
Yes.
I want to talk to you a little bit about someone that I counseled today that I had to get on the phone with because the emailing was just not doing it for her. And the reason it wasn't doing it for her because her level of stress was so high that even though my message was of, you currently are very safe because the courts aren't issuing summonses, the sheriff isn't locking people out, and we're safe until 90 days after the state of emergency rises. So get involved. That message didn't sit with her because her stress level was so high. I fear that we will have a population that is so stressed out by the amount of housing and health insecurity that we have right now that we won't recover from that emotional stress. So we have to band together. And I always tell my clients, the best cure for stress is to join a tenants union.
Housing is a human right. Housing is a human right. Housing is a human right.
This latest bailout bill has money for large corporate landlords, probably like the Blackstone Group and Equity Residential. It's obscene.
Exactly like that.
We don't want Pelosi's bailout. We want the people's bailout. We don't want Pelosi's bailout. We want the people's bailout. Our next speaker is Jody Peters, who is a small business owner who is going to speak to the plight of small businesses and why we need a paycheck protection program.
My small business is called Sweet and Simple Weddings. You can probably tell by the name that this is supposed to be my busy season, and yet 90% of my income has disappeared. And so has the protections that were supposed to come through PPP. The Small Business Administration loans all disappeared because the billionaire class snagged it all up before before any of us small businesses could get the small business assistance. The billionaire class grabbed our safety net right out from under us, and we're left to argue over the crumbs. We're fighting with each other at the bottom over the crumbs while the oligarchs have taken everything that was supposed to help us. And I'm gonna talk to Congress for a second here. I'm talking to Jimmy Gomez. I'm talking to Mike Levin over in Orange County. Every so-called progressive that's gonna vote yes on a bill that again fails to protect small businesses, fails to protect farm workers, fails to give us paycheck protection, fails to give us a monthly payment of direct assistance. Every one of them that votes for that is not for the people.
That's right. That's right.
If you progressive Congress people want us to show up and be your canvassers, your volunteers, if you want our vote, then you need to vote no on any bill that doesn't look out for us.
That's right.
Right.
No more next time. You can't keep letting the billionaire class, the 1%, the big businesses take everything that is possible for us to help us.
That's right.
We're all here representing ourselves. I'm here as a small business person, a single mother, a former teacher. You're all here representing thousands and millions of people who are in your same position. I want to speak for all of the other small business owners who have lost their dream. They've lost their money. They've lost their investment. We are struggling. We need help. We can't get unemployment. We needed that PPP money. We were counting on it. It's no one else's responsibility but Congress for allowing all the loopholes that let the huge corporations grab it.
Shame.
Before COVID, every day has been shock and awe for millions of Americans. Our for-profit insurance system is disaster capitalism at its most cruel. Before COVID, over 600,000 families lose their homes every single year just because someone got sick. Medical debt and bankruptcy have been destroying families, businesses, and communities every single day. No one in Europe knows what medical debt is, and neither should we.
That's right. Yes. Medicare for all.
Before COVID, employment-based insurance trapped 160 million workers into a system of escalating costs, ever-changing benefits, churning networks, and wage suppression. It is not healthcare is not guaranteed. Employer-sponsored healthcare is not dependable, and as we have seen with COVID, it is not secure. The urgency of life and death, of solvency and poverty, of wellness and disability has been ignored by those who are elected to represent us.
Right.
And it continues to be ignored during this COVID crisis. Each congressional response to our needs using our tax dollars during this COVID crisis has been a failure.
That's right.
They have failed us. The HEROES Act, just like the CARES Act, does not address the severity of our healthcare crisis during this pandemic. The 27 million people who have lost their healthcare coverage now join the 30 million who did not have insurance even before the pandemic. 70 million have been underinsured and cannot even afford to use the coverage that they are paying for. The government response of pumping more public money into Medicare and Medicaid enriches the private entities administering those programs for a profit.
Ooh.
Propping up Cobra profiteers continues the denial of health care to millions of Americans while siphoning our tax dollars away from our care.
Shame.
Pharma and medical supply companies continue to price gouge and control access to needed remedies and equipment, even when those remedies were in fact paid for by the public tax dollar. Hospitals with more private insurance revenue and less uncompensated care are receiving more federal coronavirus relief funding than the less wealthy and public facilities. So COVID has made it completely clear that our health and our well-being are not being addressed on any rational level by those entrusted with legislating for our interests. Rather, this crisis is an opportunity for continued stripping our tax dollars away from our needs to benefit corporate greed in this system of legalized bribery we call our political system. So at the very minimum, Congress should pass the Sanders-Jayapal Healthcare Emergency Healthcare Emergency Guarantee Act for temporary COVID relief, covering everyone for needed care during this crisis. But more importantly, we need a genuine, permanent reform of Jayapal's H.R. 1384 to establish single-payer universal health care for all. Other countries with universal national systems have unified pandemic response and as a result have better COVID mortality results. We are 100 years late in advancing reform. Now is the time for implementing single-payer, universal Medicare for all health care. Everybody in, nobody out.
Right.
Everybody in, nobody out. Everybody in, nobody out.
Everybody in, nobody out. Jimmy Gomez, hear our shout. You need to bail us out. Jimmy Gomez, hear our shout.
You need to bail us out. Come on, Jimmy.
Jimmy Gomez, hear our shout.
All right.
You need to bail us out.
So we're going to be going to other congresspeople's offices after this. This is a movement that will continue. This is a pandemic, a once in a lifetime, and we need a people's bailout that is real, for real human beings in this country. You can stick around for at least 10, 15 minutes if you want. So stand on the street corner, allow people who are driving by to see that we're here as well.
We want a people's bailout. We want a people's bailout.